Racism. It has a long history and it has survived thanks to our ability to separate ourselves based on our differences. But is it actually still alive? For many, this is a stupid question, and it's understandable. But depending on who you ask, you will get a different answer. There are many factors to consider in order to be able to explain why this could happen. But it can help to think about a different controversial idea: white privilege. Like racism, it is difficult for many people to acknowledge its existence. Here's a little analogy that could show us why this happens. Think of privilege as your immune system. It protects us from threats that are all around us, always ready to ruin our day. Normally, if you're not thinking about your immune system, it just means that it's doing its job. As long as it's working properly, we don't really have to think about it or the dangers that it keeps at bay. But as soon as it's compromised, it becomes very obvious that it's of paramount importance. Generally, we can see the importance of staying healthy, so we do what we can to take care of ourselves. But it is easy to ignore that which we cannot see. Of course, privilege doesn't begin or end with race. In our society, being wealthy is probably the best way we have of defending ourselves from possible threats. With all that being said, we'll get back to racism. So is it real? We'll answer this question with another analogy. Let's imagine that there are 3 people living in Seattle, Washington, a city that is very well known for its rainy weather. The first person lives outside, where they are completely at the mercy of the weather. The second person lives inside of a box. There are no windows or doors, and so they cannot hear, see, or even smell the rain outside. What they do have is a small screen on which they can see the person outside always complaining about the rain. The third person, just like the second person, lives in a box and there are no windows or doors. This person doesn't even know that it has ever rained in Seattle. We can imagine that the third person can't feel bad for the first person because they don't even know they exist and they don't know about the circumstances. The second person could have the ability to empathize with the first person, but since they are not directly affected by the weather, they can't really understand what it's like to live outside, so it's understandable that it would be difficult for them to empathize. Obviously, the third person isn't evil for not knowing that it rains outside, or for not thinking about the people who may be negatively affected by the weather. What would obviously be wrong would be for the second person to not be able to empathize with the first person. At the end of the day, it comes down to ignorance, how we can cure it, and what one should do once they're no longer ignorant.